411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. Boy or girl, 411 Live.
Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. Hotels and motels are common venues for sex trafficking. Sex trafficking means victims are compelled to provide commercial sex through force, coercion, threats. And the sex traffickers like to use hotels and motels because of easy access, low maintenance on their part. They can use cash, and there's an element of secrecy. Now, there is an effort by the hotels and the motels to join the anti-sex trafficking effort. Joining me now to talk about all of this is Trisha Pugal. She is the CEO of Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association. Trisha, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Beverly.
Now, we're in an interesting time, and you may notice if you have been followers of the 411 Live. Usually our studio guests would be right here with me. But this is not the case now because we are practicing social distancing. And of course, you know, that is because of the coronavirus. So we are doing the remote video conferencing or communication, as it will, to stay safe. And we hope that you are too as well. But we thank you very much for joining us. The 411 Live, we have taken on this campaign to talk about sex trafficking, human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, because we want to bring awareness and we want the conversation about this to continue and expand. Today, we will talk about that element, as you heard from my introduction, but of course, we cannot help but also talk about the coronavirus. And Trisha knows all about that because she's dealing with hotels, and hotels are having to deal with this. But let's start with the sex trafficking element. Trisha, as I was saying in the introduction, how sex traffickers traditionally have been using hotels. I mean, with you, and you hear that, is that just like a gut-wrenching kind of thing for you?
Absolutely. I can speak for the industry in that nobody likes knowing that anything like that could be happening at their property. So that's why we've been taking a lot of steps for quite a while now to try and prevent and stop the crime.
Because a lot of people think of sex trafficking and they think about, a while ago, back in the day, the girls or sometimes the guys were put on the street, but things have changed. Now they're using the internet online and scheduling the dates, as they call them, and then, setting it up, and then they come to the hotel for the act, so to speak. Now, as I was saying, the hotels and motels, some of them, are coming together in an effort to fight this. How do you do that?
Well, we've taken a number of approaches, and it actually goes back to 2014. We've been partnering with a number of different organizations and government agencies, and it's a little bit more quiet looking to the public because this is something that we need to look within and make sure that we do preventive tactics. For example, going back to 2014, we worked with the Milwaukee Police Department and a couple of other agencies, and we put together a campaign, did some seminars, and then every couple of years, we've refreshed. And more recently, we had worked with the DCF, that's the State Department of Children and Families, and with the Department of Justice to put together a video series that is actually in 3 different languages, and it's targeted for lodging employees, so hotels, motels, etc. And it actually tells them, what to look for, etc. And I don't want to get ahead of myself on what your question is.
the in the last few years and in the last year, there have been a few lawsuits filed by sex traffic survivors, and they are suing major hotel chains. They're claiming that either they knew that this was going on or they should have known that this was going on. Those lawsuits, have they prompted the industry to take a tougher look at this?
I don't think that is what I am not as familiar with the lawsuits, but I think one of the problems that we deal with is the privacy. So it isn't always as apparent as one might think. And that's something that we work very hard at, is identifying different approaches that are taking and coming up with procedures, etc.
Right. At the 411, 411 Live, I'll get it right in a minute. I was talking about that we have been focused on awareness about sex trafficking. And that seems to be a key for you in this effort that you're undertaking, the awareness part of it, management, employees, the receptionists, all throughout the chain. Is that right?
Absolutely. And we did start, our initial training was really targeted to the owners and operators. And then it moved to training the frontline staff. The interesting thing is, and there's a lot of different partners that we've been working with, and they're across the country. There are different companies that have been created that have put a lot of resources out there. But there's a big difference when you're looking at the frontline staff, what they see, whether they're working at the front desk, housekeeping, bar managers, bar employees. There's a lot of different things that can be spotted and that can be identifiers. But then you have to have the right process and procedures in place so that you never put the employees at danger.
Right.
And you also make sure that law enforcement is engaged at the right point as well, so that, again, it's a safe approach. You're not trying to tell someone to intervene themselves and put themselves in danger, and perhaps the victims as well. It's a very fine line, and that's what we've been working hard at. But again, the start was to make sure that the owners and the managers totally were behind the fact that this is a national issue, and we want to do as much as we can to obliterate it, to totally stop it.
Right. And I apologize to you and the people watching. I've had about 4 hours of sleep, so I'm working through it. But when we talked earlier, yesterday, I believe it was, and I was telling you about this incident that I had read. Well, I hadn't read. I was told about where there was an incident at a hotel where a group that advocates for survivors and victims of sex trafficking. And what they do is kind of go online, look at some of these advertisements for sex, and look for phone numbers of these women, and then call these women and say, hey, we're an organization here who will help you. If you want to get out of this, we are here. They did this to this one girl, and she answered the phone and she said, look, I can't talk right now. Call me back in 15 minutes. They called her back in 15 minutes and she said, he's gone, but I don't have a lot of time. So they told her, okay, go leave that hotel room, go to the front desk. We will call the front desk and let them know you're coming. She left. In the meantime, they called the front desk, told them, we have a sex trafficking victim who's coming down, and she needs to be secluded. Put her somewhere where she can hide. They told that girl, it was a female, at the front desk, and she said, no problem. Tell her to come on. The woman came down. The person at the front desk grabbed her, put her in a room, isolated her so no one could see her. They said about 1 or 2 minutes later, the trafficker came through the lobby, and they missed by 1 or 2 minutes. And the manager of the hotel came to the room and asked the victim, do you want us to call the police? And she said yes. In the meantime, the police can't come. The agency who initiated all of this, they show up. That trafficker was arrested and is going to trial. They found out he had, operations in several states. And if they convict him, he'll be, in jail for a long time. But I tell you this story because I'm thinking about there was that person at the front desk who knew what to do. This person wasn't saying, oh, well, I don't know anything. I don't know what to do. They knew what to do. So is this the kind of training that people are getting so that they know how to respond to something like this?
Exactly. And that's something that we are looking at, even taking to a updated approach. And we do have a major event planned for Milwaukee in June with
Oh, that's great.
with our local, the Greater Milwaukee Hotel and Lodging Association, as well as the American Hotel and Lodging Association. We've got the Attorney General, State Attorney General will be there, et cetera. And while people will be speaking about the importance of it, there will actually be a component for the frontline staff to actually be trained. And this is very important. It's been done in other cities, in Chicago not long ago. We're taking that template and we're trying to bring it to Milwaukee and then further out from there as well. Although anybody in this, any hotel employee in the state will be invited to participate in that as well. But it'll set the stage, explain the things again that I was alluding to, that what do you look for? And then once, if you see these things, obviously you say something, but then try and let it be customized to who do you say it to. Each property is going to have a different structure as to who they report to, but it needs to be someone who can handle that type of information in the appropriate manner, who knows how to contact law enforcement, etc. Obviously, the goal is the same for everyone, and that is to remove that from the property and hopefully from existing at some point.
Yeah, it could have the potential to save lives.
We certainly want to do our part, but again, we are just one. We're like one part of the wheel that is getting us there as a group.
Is it to the point where no one is immune? I mean, everybody gets a piece of this training so that if there is a victim who shows up, I mean, she's not thinking, okay, I need to talk to somebody in management. If she's reaching out, she's going to reach out to whoever might show up or whoever is in her line of sight. And that could be anybody, the person changing the towels, anybody. So within this training, I'm assuming that it includes everybody.
Well, the goal is anybody that has touches with public, because those are the people that someone would see if they were having a problem. But it's also those who aren't, some positions where they aren't seeing the public much. Housekeepers, they do interact a little bit, but then there's things that they can be looking for as they move about the property as well. So the communication is the big thing, knowing where to go, what to look for, how to handle it, and making sure that you don't intervene yourself and put everyone in danger. But it's also one of the challenges is that there like other businesses, there's turnover. So you get everybody trained and then somebody new comes in and then somebody, that's just going to keep happening. So I don't see this as a one-time fixes all.
Right.
That's part of the reason we got involved with getting a video, so that a video could be shown to anybody on their staff at any time, things like that. So we're very grateful that DCF and DOJ got involved to create that video and to help train and educate frontline staff as well.
Sex traffickers are pretty sophisticated. And a thought just came in my head of, maybe trying to get someone on that they deal with to become an employee of a hotel so that they can have an insider in there? Do you vet all of your employees?
I can't speak for all the properties. They each have their own approaches to hiring.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, I don't think it's so easy to predict where these things will occur. It's not like it's happening at all hotels,
Right.
and it's not known where, and it could be very temporary. It's very difficult, and I think you can get that information from the police and the Department of Justice and detectives. They can reinforce that they have their own way of looking and trying to nail it down. But the certainty, if it was so easy to predict, it could have been prevented and stopped a long time ago.
Good point. Good point. Trisha, we're going to pause for a quick break. When we come back, we are going to shift gears and talk about the coronavirus and its effect, its impact on hotels and motels. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Human trafficking is a global issue that is happening locally. This is a problem that we cannot ignore.
Being so scared on that hotel bed and wish I had my money. Going back into that feeling of, man, what am I getting myself into?
She rests her head on the prison to which she's chained.
I'm standing there and I can't move. I can't go nowhere, I'm stuck.
Drug into this spider's web, and she can't untangle herself to freedom.
Him telling me how pretty I am and what I can do to trick guys out of money and what I need to do and how much money I need to bring back, and him making me change into different lingeries to take pictures of me to put me on Craigslist. Now I'm a product to be sold.
Beneath this ground we walk is a hell of movement in a forced direction. Gridlocked, traffic lights, sex, currency, bodies, stock, fear, monopolized, auction, blocks.
Another job, he come another one, and then just being sold over and over and over and over.
Minds groomed to be immune to pain.
And you used to it, and you just lay there.
Numb, desensitized, innocence, drained.
I went from that scared little girl, from the foster care, from being molested by my stepbrother, by my foster brother, to being a lonely little girl stuck in a house, so scared with my mother, to being trafficked.
We're back, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. I'm Beverly Taylor. I am joined by Trisha Pugal, and she is the interim CEO of Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association. She has graciously agreed to join us. We just finished talking about hotels, motels, and sex trafficking. Now we want to talk about what everybody seems to be talking about. That is the coronavirus. And we want to talk about how it is impacting the hotel industry, the lodging industry. Of course, Governor Evers issued a stay-at-home order to help curb the spread of this virus. And, with people staying at home, they're not traveling unless absolutely necessary. There's little need for a hotel room if you're staying at home. So it has a ripple effect, because if the people are not filling up the hotel rooms, there are these empty rooms. They don't need to be cleaned. You don't need as many employees. There have been some hotels that have closed. Potawatomi Hotel closed. There are some hotels that are staying open, but occupancy is pretty low. Let's talk about this with Trisha, because she knows all about this ripple effect. I was asking you, Trisha, before we came on the air what time you got up this morning, and you said you got up early because you had to do a lot of things because you're very, very busy. What is going on?
I think you kind of summarized it without maybe knowing it up front, but it is decimating our industry right now. Part of the problem is, as you said, the travelers are not traveling.
Right.
It's not the time to do so. In fact, there are parts of the state where they've actually come out with messages saying, please, travelers, please stay away, because they're running into some issues about local supplies, and they don't want people coming in and possibly bringing some of the virus, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an interesting state right now. It is hurting very much financially. There is no revenue coming in for a lot of the properties. As you said, some are closing temporarily. But the problem is they're valued employees. Hospitality employees are the backbone of our industry. We're legendary in Wisconsin because of our employees and the way that we make everyone feel welcome, and we go out of our way with services. So it is presenting a problem. They are not able to keep up when there's no revenue, and that's why some are closing temporarily. A lot of them are laying off a significant amount of their staff. There aren't too many choices out there for them.
Trisha, I have to ask you, when you first heard about the coronavirus, when it came out, and, it was trickling the cases in the U.S. It was mainly, China and other places. But what was your initial reaction when you first heard it? I guess I'm asking, at what point did you look at this situation and think, this might be a problem?
I think one thing we've been doing is surveying our members and trying to keep our finger on the pulse.
Uh-huh.
And once we were hearing from them how the cancellations were just wiping out their business. And I think that's when it was definitely hitting home that this is something that the plans need to change for. There needs to be a new approach. There needs to be really strong communication. And that's kind of the approach we've been taking, making sure that they're aware of what's going on, whether it's state level, national level, and trying to piece that together with what they can do at this time, what they can do moving forward, because they're all individual businesses that make their own decisions,
Mm-hmm.
but they need all the information at hand when they do that.
How are the ones that have decided to stay open? How are they handling this? What kind of game plan do they have as far as, they don't need as many employees. What happens to those employees? How do they maneuver this?
Well, I will tell you that is probably the most difficult thing that any owner or manager has got to do, because they get pretty close to their employees. That they're always working so closely together. This is a business that's 24/7, so there's always a lot of interaction, communication, and that's the laying off, making those decisions has been extremely difficult on them. As far as how they segue into planning, etc., there is some business that's out there. It's primarily whether it's hospital employees that are working a lot and they need to stay over instead of going home. There's other state workers. There's other that are still needing to travel. So there are a variety. There's construction work because construction is allowed to go on for projects that are partway in, just to make sure that structures are safe. So it was under one of the essential businesses concept. So I think there are some little pockets of people that are traveling or needing to stay overnight that are on their way to home. They were traveling and they're returning one way or the other. So it's very unique little pockets that are around the state, and that is allowing some to stay open, but the majority to either lay off in many cases 90% of their team, and until things can start improving again.
I think it's really tough as far as laying off those employees because I'm sure some of them are on the bottom rung as, pay scale goes. And you're probably the least able to afford not being able to work. So, of course, unemployment can help a little bit. But, those are the things that I think about, and my heart goes out to those people.
And I will say that it's across the tiers.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just one category. It's pretty much across the tiers as far as who has to be laid off in the interim. But they're doing everything they can not to get to that point. Some have the ability to, while there's no work, they will still pay for a certain amount of times. Others don't have that ability as far as the timing of it, their cash flow, et cetera. So it's a little different in every property.
Have you heard as far as reservations? You were talking earlier that they knew something was wrong when people were canceling reservations. Do you know how far out those cancellations go?
Actually, that's something we surveyed on as well. We were looking initially, now this is already 2 weeks old, which is really old when you talk about data these days. But one of our original ones, we asked about May and June just to see if that was, and then we also asked about July and August. July and August, minimal cancellations.
Okay.
May and June, you could see a little bit of an impact, but I think there's still that hopefulness that this will work its way through and that people will be able to get out again. So the vast majority has been March and April. And in some places, that's a critical time of year. There's a lot of group business that was canceled. So that's a big chunk that goes away right away, whether there's a meeting, a conference, weddings. The impact is huge when you can't get a group of any size together.
Right.
And we totally understand and support it from the safety method. So that's not the question at all. It's how do you handle a business that is immediately and directly impacted? And basically, lodging and restaurants were the first two on the line when this started happening.
Right. Looking, further down the road, and you kind of answered this question with the cancellations that you were talking about, but it brings up the DNC. Will that be impacted? Are people in the industry a little worried, concerned that it may impact that? They may tweak the convention. It may look a little different. What could happen?
Obviously, there's a lot of options which we have no control over. So
Right.
it's waiting for announcements. And yes, everyone's anxiously, watching for that. But, maybe they'll make some creative decisions. And, we hope that what is best for both safety and for their organization takes place soon.
You are interim CEO of the Wisconsin Hotel and Lodging Association. Tell me a little bit about that association. How many members do you have, and does it cover just all aspects of the state? Every pocket and every corner.
Actually, we do. We've got over 600 lodging properties. Those are our members. And they represent everything from a bed and breakfast, the category that's called tourist rooming house, which is some vacation properties. And we've got all the way up to resorts, hotels, motels, everything in between. So that's why we have to take the complete differences and find our commonalities and try and provide the best services for them. And I think right now our primary service and our primary focus is trying to do what we can to help everyone as they go through this. This is unprecedented. There hasn't been anything that's on record that has hit our industry like this. In fact, on the national level, they were saying that this has been worse than about 3 of the major, including 911, things that have happened to our industry through the years.
Wow. Wow. So, as part of the association, what do you do? Do you do analysis of trends, or what?
Sure.
What's the scope?
We do everything from legal to regulatory help. We do marketing. We help them with marketing. We have programs that they can buy into where we buy things in bulk and then they can do things, which is especially helpful for small businesses that don't have much in the way of marketing dollars. We do a lot. We do legislative representation, very much on the analysis of whether it's trends, whether it's bills that are coming out, things like that, and very heavy in the communication.
So you're busy now. You're very busy.
We have a good team. We're all working remotely, trying to pull everything together, and everybody's really doing a great job.
What is your hope as far as that Congress passed the $2 trillion stimulus package? What is your hope for that?
I hope that some of the relief is moved fast. That's the problem right now is timing. We were the first ones on the line to hit the pain. Mm-hmm. And so we don't have as much endurance as perhaps some other businesses, which are now just starting to feel it. So hopefully they can start getting things set up and processing so that some of the relief can come into actuality. We're also looking for some help on the state level, which can usually be a little bit faster, and are trying to get some ideas together to help encourage that.
What would that look like?
I think some of it is loan-based. For example, the interest-free loans, something like that, perhaps delays in when taxes are due. And I know there has been some of that, but anything that can allow bills to be paid, payroll to be met, mm-hmm. Things like that, insurance payments to be made for employees, anything that allows them to be able to do that is kind of what we need pretty fast.
Yeah. I hear you. Fast. Mm-hmm. Are you making any headway with some of the legislators, some of the state legislators? Are they listening? Are they in support?
I think they're very intuitive, and there has been a lot of media coverage about the tourism industry and the impact. So I think they're pretty aware, and they're always trying to problem solve. They've got a lot of people that are asking for things. So I think we're hopeful that they'll take that intuition and creativity and put some support our way.
So at this point, talking about your members and them calling you, because I'm sure you're the go-to person of the association. Is it a lot of, at this point, some hand-holding, some encouragement, some, that kind of thing? Because I would think it's emotional, it's mental, as well as, some financial.
I have directly seen and experienced some members going through some pretty tough times with this. I don't think that, I think what we're trying to do is give them some facts, so that they know what's going on as best we can pull it all together. Usually it's quick, things mm-hmm. come down and you have to turn it around real quick. I think it's encouraging them to look for the long term. Yeah. And there's a lot of, we're very hopeful that once we're over the bell curve here, that things will pick up and we'll start seeing travelers very anxious, as everyone knows, to get out of the house and yes. to start traveling again. Once they start doing that, we can all rebuild. We can all, get back on track, because I know they're very anxious to call their employees back and to get everybody back and to start providing our hospitality back to Wisconsin.
Absolutely. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're just not quite sure the timing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Trisha Pugal, thank you so much for joining us. and being so enlightening, because through all of this, you think about the hotels, how they're impacted, the employees, and all of these things. And thank you for addressing the sex trafficking issue as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
So please be safe.
You too.
All right. Thank you. You have been listening to the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. I'm Beverly Taylor. Listen, we have been doing many podcasts for many months. And if you are interested, and we hope you are, and with the coronavirus, with people trying to stay at home, you may have a little extra time. You can go on YouTube, subscribe, and look at some of our previous podcasts. We think that you will find them very enlightening and informative. Now, we are a nonprofit organization, so if you are so inclined to help us out in our endeavor to tackle this issue, please feel free to do this. Go to the 411live.org and donate, and we really appreciate that, and we will use your money wisely. Again, thank you for joining us. Look at our old previous podcasts. We think you'll like them. And join us next time for the 411 Live. Real people, real talk.